Hello students, in this lecture we are going to discuss software risk analysis and management. The contents of this lecture is risk management, risk assessment, risk control. Risk management. First I will discuss the risk. Risk is the event which may be occur or not. It is a probabilistic event. Maybe it will come or not. It depends upon the type of project, type of problems we are going to solve, whether we will have the risk or not. We are going to do the topic risk management. That risk management is the activities which attempt which is an attempt to minimize the chances of failure caused by unplanned events. Basically, if any risk occur during the development of project, how this risk will be managed. That is the gist of the risk management. It reduces the chances of occurrence of failure caused by the unplanned event. So whenever we develop the project, what we will do some risk management activities so that we can minimize the risk impact on our project. We can either remove the event which cause the risk, or we can limit the risk according to the situation. Basically, risk management has to deal with identifying the undesirable event that can occur, the probability of their occurring, and the loss if an undesirable event occurs. Once we know all the risks, then we can either reduce the event or reduce the effect of the event. But before that, first we have to identify the undesirable event which may occur during the development or execution of the project. For that, we have to do some activities for the risk management, that is the risk assessment and risk control. Risk management has two sub-activities, risk assessment and risk control. Risk assessment further divided into three sub-activities. One is the risk identification, after that risk analysis, third is risk prioritization. Risk control further has three sub-activities: risk management and planning, risk resolution, risk monitoring. Risk assessment is an activity that must be undertaken during the project planning. This risk assessment includes further sub-activities. First, identifying the risk. Second, analyzing them. Third, prioritizing them. Due to this nature of software project, uncertainties are highest near the beginning of the project. As we have discussed at the time of requirement analysis and specification also, the risk occurs during the requirement analysis and specification phase. If risks are resolved in that phase, then the cost will be low, rather than in the maintenance phase. If we found any risk, if any found problem, that will be very costly. In the risk identification, our first step is to do the risk assessment. In the risk assessment, in the risk identification, first we identify the different risks of the particular project. The risk of the projects vary from project to project, that cannot be same in the all projects. That's why I'm saying these risks are project dependent. Identifying them is an exercise envisioning what can go wrong. Methods that can aid risk identification include checklists of the possible risks, surveys, meetings, brainstorming, review of plans, processes, and work products. Basically, a checklist is prepared for identification of risk by doing the several activities. Either we can do the surveys, meetings, brainstorming, or review of plans which we have prepared. And this checklist, we prepare some common checklist through which we can identify that which risk frequency is high to occur. That means if frequency is high to occur, then probability is high to occur that risk. We have to prioritize the risk. Such a list form the starting point for identifying the risk for the current project. As we have discussed earlier, first we will do the risk identification. After doing the risk identification, we will enumerate the unforeseen events might occur during the development or planning of projects. We will try to materializing the probabilities by discussions. There is no other way to do this. After that, we will analyze the risk. In the risk analysis, the probability of occurrence of risk has to be estimated along with the loss that will occur if the risk does materialize. What will be the probability? Will be the loss if this risk occurs? For that, we will use the cost model for the schedule cost and schedule estimation, so that we can assess the cost and schedule risk. We can do this subjective, use Delphi approach for the same. This is the subjective assessment approach in which a group of people discusses the problem estimation. After that, give you the final estimate or final solution. In risk assessment, after that we will obviously prioritize the risk. For prioritizing, we will do the we will consider the two factors. One is probability of risk coming. Second, whenever risk comes, what will be the problems occur. So, this is the priority of risk equal to multiplied by probability of risk coming multiplied by the problem consequences if risk occurs. That from this formula we can calculate the priority of the risk, where P is the priority. So we can find, once we find the priority, if priority is high, then we can find the consequences of the problems occur due to this risk, and either we will reduce the risk or we can remove that task from the development. Second subactivity of risk management is risk control. The risk management work is under the risk management activity, first to identify the risk, analyze them and prioritize them. And risk control is activity to control the risk. The objective of risk management: identify the top few risk items and focus on them. Project manager will identify and prioritize. Now, what is the work of risk control? To control the risk. The good strategy to control the risk is the risk avoidance. to avoid the risk so that it will not occur. In that case, we have to follow some risk mitigation strategy. In that case, this risk mitigation strategy either reduce the probability of risk materializing or reduce the loss due to risk materializing. Probability of risk occur or loss happen due to this particular risk. Either of them will be reduced. So we have to monitor the risk mitigation steps time to time. Risk mitigation steps are not the static steps. This is the dynamic step, because if you do it statically, then once you identify the risk, that will be logged. So what we will do it dynamically, so that time to time we will identify the risk, assess the risk, control the risk, so that if according to time risk may change, it is not necessary the risk will be same at each time. To ensure that needed action are executed properly, they must be incorporated into the detailed project schedules. Risk prioritization and consequent planning are based on the risk perception at the time. If perception is changed, then risk probability of occurrence, whatever we assess, that will be also changed. So it is necessary whenever risks are dependent on the external factors, then we have to change the risk frequency accordingly. Risk perception may also change with time. The risk mitigation steps undertaken may affect the risk perception. If our risk perception is changed, in that case, our risk mitigation steps will also be changed. Because whenever we monitor the risk periodically, then we have to change the risk mitigation plan. Because I told you that this is the dynamic activity, we cannot make it static. Thank you, students. In this lecture, we have studied the risk analysis and management. Risk management is the activity to manage the risk. If any risk occur during the project, in that case, how we will deal with that risk. Thank you.